everybody. Hello, Seth.
Hi, Saf.
Ah,
Wow, you seem very happy today. Hi.
you know what? I don't know if happy is the right term, but excited is definitely is, and I'll say why. I'll say why. But before that, let me just tell everyone who's already here to tell us where you're from. I see YouTube right here. I see Facebook right there. Okay, we're starting to see some friends tuning in. We have Marek and David and Cece and Oki and Tatiana and a bunch of other people I see are now tuning in. Come here, quarantine viewers. Come here, dear viewers, dear friends. Let's enter the great transition. Because, like it
Mm.
or not, we're entering it anyway. So that's my thing, Seth. Why not be excited about it? Right? I mean,
The great transition.
yeah,
It's no
yeah.
longer just the quarantine, in quarantine. This is a new, we're not going back. It wasn't just a 3 week or a few even month process, but we are now, it's
Mm,
official, everybody. We are transitioning to a new life, a new way of being. What we heard from our teacher, the Kabbalist Rav Lightman, is the virus is it's not just affecting us biologically, but it will reach all humanity, and it will like a piece of software will come
mm.
and upgrade us. And it's not the virus doing anything; it's nature, just one small, tiny expression of nature. But even changing the way we smell or see or feel, and of course think. I mean, how could it be that something that kills a fraction of the amount of people that cigarettes kill, for example, can shut down the entire global economy or cause such turmoil everywhere?
Yeah,
So we are going
we are going.
through the great transition together.
Yeah, this virus is, it's a program. It is a program. It's an expression of a bigger program, though. And the program is the general program of nature. And we as human beings, we don't realize that we're living in a program, that the whole of reality is a program, all the way to the point of what we see and feel and touch through our five senses, all the pictures that we're seeing in our world, including the weather and the politicians and the headlines and social media and your mom and your wife and your dog.
My mom?
Uh, Her too, yeah. Anyone and everyone in this movie is including ourselves, is a projection of that conscious part that is developing under nature's software. We are the sensitive part that the whole of nature is working on. That's why we have this unique conscious sense of separation from the rest of nature. That's why we don't feel that we're part of the ants and the fish and the mountains and the seagulls and the birds and what have you. That's why we feel so alienated from each other and from nature. But it's only because now, as humanity is entering this new phase of human evolution, we're entering a point where we can actually use that consciousness to re enter nature's software or nature's program. And believe it or not, nature's program is doing that as well. Meaning the fact that we feel that we're not part of the program is part of the program. Anyway, so
Now,
I'm excited. I'm excited
I
about what's
always felt
happening.
like there was something going on. I even remember being a little kid. Um, I think a lot of people probably had this, but I always felt like I grew up in a suburban town outside of New York, like a commuting town into the city, and just regular, go to school, come home, ride your bike, set up a lemonade stand outside on the weekends, throw the ball in the yard, kind of regular
Hmm.
American suburban life. But inside, I
A regular Seth.
always a regular Seth life. I always had this feeling that there was something more, that there was something, this whole other experience of life that I was not, that I knew was there.
Yeah.
And I went to summer camp at summer camp, you go away for the whole summer and you'd be together with kids for like 8 or 9 weeks. And there you'd start to feel this thing when everyone was together and you're eating together and you're playing and you develop these kind of friendships. That was almost like a
Mm-hmm.
taste of it in some way, of like this other kind of alternate reality. There was no school. It was just games all day and swimming and playing with your friends and staying up late. And it was just a wonderful kind of alternate reality. And then also, on the holidays when the whole big groups of people would sing songs together, you also kind of felt something special in it. So there were like, or at concerts or
What
something like
age
that.
are
I
we
got
talking about?
and up until I became, I left my parents' house. So after,
Ah, okay. So okay.
yeah, young. So at some point, uh, when I left my parents' house, or maybe senior year or something of high school, I started to find these books, like Eastern books, like by Yogi, written by yogis.
Like meditation, things like that.
Yeah, all kind of things like that. I found an incredible book called Autobiography of a Yogi. I think it was this guy from the East. He came to the West and he was writing about this one guy who lived in a cave with a tiger, and this one guy who didn't sleep for 15 years, and all of these things that were. I was like, oh, so there is something else out there besides go be born, go to school, go to work, retire, and then die. Like, oh, there is some other way that people are living their entire life. Um, and it was, kind of shocking. And I didn't see any, so you always have these feelings inside that there's got to be something more, but without any example of it, without seeing it outside, there's no way to manifest it. What's interesting today is I think most people's perception when we talk about the state we're in now, when people talk, we're all one or we just need unity or whatever, I think that
Mm.
people take those concepts from these kind of Eastern traditions.
Yeah.
I see on Facebook where I write a lot, people saying, we're all one, we're all light, everyone's got light inside it and things like this. uh, it's funny, when I finally came to the wisdom of Kabbalah, um, it's very different kind of it's a very different method. Of course the whole thing is love, of course everything is light, of course the entire goal of creation, as we understand the thought of creation, is to bring everyone together. In fact, all of the colors and everyone together, meaning black people, white people, yellow people, red people, everyone together is the
Mm-hmm.
vessel in which the endless fulfillment dwells. But different. The Eastern tradition, it's like everyone has light inside that shines. Namaste even is like, I see the light inside of you. Wisdom of Kabbalah is totally opposite. It's like you started out as mud, or even before that, you were like stardust, and then you became mud, and then it like developed into like plants, and then animal. And so it's a totally different kind of progression. I guess you could say we were all light, but that would have been before the Big Bang or something, before any kind of creation. But it's such a pragmatic system, and we can really understand where we're heading now if we understand that. And we can also have some understanding of all of the different corruptions we see in people, and stop saying, oh, well, he was, everyone should be behaving correctly, and if he does something wrong, he should have known he's really light inside and he did something wrong. No, we all came from this a shattered state, from developing from this very, very low place
Well, there
forward.
is there is a concept, in Eastern traditions, um, yin and yang. That there's darkness and light, and they complement each other, and you
So
gotta
actually, I
have.
didn't study the Asian one. I was,
Okay.
I was thinking more the yogic one, but okay. So tell
No,
me.
but I'm saying that's something that is very understandable to a lot of people. But still, the question is, how do these? I mean, you know that symbol, the yin and
Of
yang, white,
course.
black.
Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so basically, what it says is, that the you can't have darkness without light. You can't have light without darkness. These two forces, negative, positive, are working together, and they are required. They are needed in order to make a whole, in order to create a oneness. Now, that's, put these traditions aside, which I'm not an expert in, also, by the way.
No, me
but
neither.
but from a scientific perspective, which I researched a lot, both in my academic background and outside of it, um, you do see that there are two forces of nature on every level that are working together, from the still level, where it manifests as protons and electrons, and minus and plus in electricity, if you think about it like that, and ebb and flow and contraction and expansion and heat and cold and male and female. And these two forces are all pervasive. They're throughout all of reality, and they are, through the interplay between them, they are creating the next level of life. Even just the planet that we're on right now, for millions and billions, in fact, of years, were, just liquid ball of gas that were warm and cold, and those temperatures and those gases were fighting between each other until there was a certain kind of balance created. Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag writes about this, by the way, at length in his own words, describing how, planet Earth was created as a result of this balance, when there was a cool crust that was hardened around the warmth of the planet, and that balance enabled the creation of, ultimately, the biosphere, the planet, the flora and fauna on Earth. And so, and they also express these two conflicting trends that are creating the next level of evolution each time. The question is, though, what does Kabbalah here can add to us that really is not there in
Yeah,
just
that's
those
the point.
two forces? What is it? And it's all about how we, as the conscious level of nature, are supposed to bring these forces into balance by, like you said, first of all, recognizing that we inherently, our fundamental nature is a minus. We were created in the reality of this physical world, this physical experience of our five senses, as a result of something called, a process called a shattering, where we were no longer bonded with the light, bonded with the oneness of nature,
Hmm.
bonded with the love that pervades all of creation. We were detached from that, and that's why we grew and evolved in this world as egoistic mud, like you say, as egoistic human beings, ultimately coming to the point where, after that ego culminates and reaches the point where it is already completed, which is today, which is in our time, now we can start working to merge in our with our consciousness, with our free will, with our own accord. We can start merging these two forces to create the next level of the human being, and that is something we don't even know today. We have,
That's
yeah,
the great transition. Yeah,
and that's
what's
the
coming
great
next is
transition.
something totally beyond anything that we've it's not just like we're going to have a garden and everyone's going to have fresh tomatoes and basil. It's something which may also happen,
Sounds
but
great though, basil. I really do like basil.
yeah, I
Yeah,
love how basil smells.
yeah,
um
the scent of it.
I love the one with the sliced tomatoes with the basil and the mozzarella cheese on it.
Yeah, there's also
uh,
like some sort of, there's aesthetics in like tomato with basil. There's like
oh, the red
just
and the
the
white with the
red, and
green.
yeah, it's just
Oh yeah,
beautiful.
with the pepper. Yeah, it's amazing.
Fireworks here. I don't know if you can hear it. I don't know.
um
Yeah. Where were we? Basil.
I think we were talking about basil and gardening. um Yeah, the that's something so unique about where we are today, is that there isn't a, and that's one of the limitations that we find ourselves in. And we see that, you heard about the parties, maybe, I don't know, you're in Israel. Here, there's these COVID parties down in Alabama, down south here, where people are going. Everybody shows up at the party and puts down $100 or whatever it is, and the first one who gets corona, keeps all the money. It's like the
Wow.
people are pushing to find, where are the limits. Let's eat and drink, for tomorrow we'll die, like full out. Like where is the
Mm,
limit? What is where how far can we push this thing? Like what? Okay, you tell me that the whole economy needs to shut down. You tell me I can't go, hug my family. I can't do anything. What is the great transition that we're going through that nobody yet can understand? The Kabbalists, though, come and tell us how this process is developing. And, it's fascinating uh, how an idea hits the internet, and then within a few days, like everyone sees the same joke, like a meme.
yeah.
Everyone
Yeah.
just it
Yeah.
spreads
It's
to
just
all
spread.
cultures. So the thoughts of how this needs to happen needs to pass to all of the people, all of this broken vessel, and together we'll move in, and it will manifest itself clearly. All of a sudden we'll hear some guy at a protest talking about how nature's directing everyone, or we'll see, on a newscast, some
Okay.
you can say
Wait, hold that thought. In order to help us understand how it's going to happen, why not let's
yes.
bring our wonderful guest that we have today? She is ready and she is with us, and I'm going to bring her in right about now. We have with
Ah,
us, hopefully, we can see and hear her in 1 second. We have, yes, we do. We have the lovely
hi Tal.
Tal Mandelbaum, our dear friend,
Hi Tal.
social psychologist,
Hi.
and one of the hosts
Oh,
of the
I
new
know.
live show with Kabbalist Dr. Michael Leitman. How are you, Tal?
I'm all right. It's good to be here. It's good to hear you guys.
Look
I
good.
like the vibe, the basil, all that. Nice to
It fits with
join.
that couch in the background. I want to eat the basil while sitting on that couch, and to me,
Oh, it
that's like
looks
the what the future
inviting.
looks like.
It looks great. we
You're
were
welcome.
just we were just talking
Excited.
about these COVID parties. Did you hear about that? There are
I
students.
heard, I think I saw a title, but I didn't actually read about it. It sounds
Okay,
wild.
you're a social psychologist. Give us your take on this. So students in Alabama and New York, right, Seth, are just say it again. What are they doing?
So what I saw was down south here, young people, meaning teens, 20s, they're having a thing called a COVID party, or whatever kind of party, where somebody with the virus comes to the party, and everybody puts down $100 or whatever it is, and everyone parties together, and then the first one to catch the virus wins the all the money.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do
Can
I
you
think?
can you help us understand this phenomenon?
Is this nihilism? Is this just kids having fun? Just is it what is this? What do you think?
It, it, when you were talking about it, like the first time I heard it, I thought it reminded me of people joining ISIS because they were
Oh,
looking for meaning in life or something like that. I mean, I think there's such an emptiness in this generation seeking for meaning and something to really like experience in their life. Maybe they're very desensitized also from all the media and all of that, that they're not
hmm.
that afraid of anything. And then this kind of experience might be exhilarating for them and really like awaken something in them that they feel like they need. That is my first impulse
I
on.
mean, it's well known before COVID that people join gangs and things like that because you feel brotherhood, you feel connected. I mean, even in the
Camaraderie.
mafia,
Yeah.
there's a strong feeling of purpose in life when you do that. There's something else though, Tal, that we let's keep digging. There's something else about this, eat and drink because tomorrow we die kind of thing, where it's um, I think in the 80s, when I grew up, there was still this kind of feeling you're gonna grow up, you're gonna make a family or something, you're gonna have some kind of work, you're gonna either it's gonna be music or it's gonna be a business or you're gonna do something, you're gonna go towards something, and then the next generation is gonna go towards something. And it seems like today it's a different program. It's what are a person doesn't know what's coming next, where is, so maybe that was more, if you go back before the 80s. So my dad was a shoemaker and my grandpa was a shoemaker, and so I'm a shoemaker and my son's going to be a shoemaker. And then no, then it came the baby boom and all this. No, I want to study some ancient dance technique, and I want to do this. And where is it going?
And where did it
What
come
do you
from?
see
Maybe
as
you can give us, yeah, like the whole broad strokes of the evolution of human consciousness from a psychological perspective.
I just wanted to say that what Seth is saying really makes sense, because if you don't have a sense of purpose and direction in your life, then you're really looking for ways to feel or experience life in all kinds of negative ways, I'd say, because you don't have a positive meaning system to life. And then you see young people doing all kinds of crazy things just to experience some sort of, I don't know, some sort of exhilaration or excitement.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Samuel here on the chat, Samuel Lima says boredom brings with it its twin brother, which is risk taking. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I wanted to share with you guys a model that I studied at university when I was studying social psychology. And this is a model, it's really interesting. It's something that's pretty popular in like organizational psychology, and it was used to understand different perspective that people and cultures have in order to make groups work better, and sometimes to actually bring together different cultures of different people. And it's a model that can help us understand the psychology of our evolution as a humanity and as individuals. It really can help us see where we are on this kind of spectrum of evolution. And the model, it's something that came from the work of Professor Clare Graves. He actually studied students, and for like decades. It started in the 50s. He would just ask them questions about their value systems, what motivates them, what's meaningful for them, the things that they see as important in their life. And he began to see patterns that were emerging again and again, and also changing throughout these students' lives. And he studied for decades these people. And he built a model with 8 stages of psychological evolution. And it's not just it's not intelligence, it's not even EQ, it's not emotional intelligence. He was describing an adaptive intelligence as it was emerging along our human history. And the model goes back 100,000 years. By the way, it was later adapted by psychologist Don Beck and his colleague Cohen, and they gave colors to each level. And I want to show you a picture of this model before I go into this.
So we're talking about stages of the emergence of human intelligence and human consciousness. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Let me show you the model, and then it will be a bit more.
Wow, you got me very interested.
Okay. Here it is. Okay, so as you can see, this is the model of Don Beck, and this came out in the 90s, and it is based on Clare Graves' theories.
It looks like
from
the 60s.
What does it look like?
It's the 60s. It's very colorful.
Yes, the 60s come in somewhere in the middle. But it really goes, if you see at the bottom, there's this beige, they give colors to each level. This goes back 100,000 years to our very, very basic animalistic state, survival mode. This is a very like beginning level of consciousness. People are very much like animals at this stage. And then it goes to the purple, which is a more tribal level. Now, each stage, it comes after people feel like they can't solve the problems of their current conditions with the tools and the consciousness that they have, and then a higher level consciousness kind of emerges. So from that very basic level, people felt like they need to organize in order to survive better. So a higher level called the purple or tribal level emerged, and they started building tribes where they could protect themselves better. And then they already had all kinds of rituals and in art and music, and like culture began to evolve. But that was like something very communal, and the ego grew. And so a higher level emerged, and now we're talking 10,000 years ago, and that is the egocentric red level, where you started seeing empires, feudal empires, like the ego erupting and people trying to control and take power and break the limitations of the tribe, the more tribal kind of structure. And I'm just going to go and tell you the whole thing, unless you have questions or you want to stop me. So.
I do,
No,
but let's see the whole picture first. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see where we're gonna end up.
Okay. So let me just say that at every stage, like I said, there's all kinds of pressures that are pushing people to evolve, and especially because they don't know how to fix the problems that they feel in their existential reality. So a new level evolves, and yet the levels cannot understand each other. Like a person on the red level does not understand the level before him or the level above him. And that is one of the reasons we're going to see a lot of conflict between people.
No, Mom, you don't understand me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait,
and
I
it's
don't-
true
so-
in our personal lives, in our families. Yes,
It's
it's
very true. So you're saying if I'm on the blue level, I don't understand both the level above me, okay, but also the level below me? Why is that? Did I not go through it?
you are in conflict with it because each level comes in contradiction to the level that came before. And there is another interesting thing in this model, that there's a kind of oscillation, or it's like a pendulum that goes from very individualistic levels to then very communal or self-sacrifice levels. So like the beige was individualistic, and then the purple is tribal. There's a sacrifice of self. And then from that sacrifice of self, there is the self, the ego wants to break free again, and it emerges this egoistic red level, which is just unbridled power and a lust for power. And then you see those empires and the slaves and that sort of thing. And then from this kind of unbridled jungle, or Wild West kind of level, there emerges a new, more collective level, which is the blue level. And this is already organized religion. After all that Wild West type ego, people wanted order, they wanted structure, and they wanted laws. And later you also see the nation states that come on this level. And this is already something that you see in Western culture, where you see a lot of people who have their religions and who value nationalism or the order of the nation state. You see this very much on the right side of politics in America, for example, where people want things to be very, very ordered, and they value that sort of thing. But from this level, this did not satisfy people. The ego grew once again. And also, there was a time in Europe, there were lots of plagues, and people felt that religion was not giving them the answers, it wasn't protecting them from this sort of scary time. And so a new level emerged, again, a more individualistic level, where man wants to create his own heaven on earth using science, using his brain, using his own sort of ability to control reality without the help of religion. And
so this is enlightenment now, more or less. Enlightenment, Renaissance, right?
Exactly. This started about 300 years ago with the Enlightenment, the emergence of science, and then business and industry. And the orange level is really when you see entrepreneurs who want to change the world and make an impact, and they feel they have the power to make an impact. This is the very orange level that emerged about 300 years ago. And this was very, very individualistic, very centered on the individual. Also, democracy came around here. And then from this place, this was also not satisfying, because a lot of people felt that, this is a very egoistic level that was really destroying the environment and manipulating people for financial gain, materialistic gain. And then a new level emerged, which is the green level, which is again focusing more on community. And here we are at the 60s with the hippies and communes and social democracy, and trying to create, legislation that will take care of the weaker parts of
I think
society.
Seth now feels that he identifies deeply for some reason.
No, but a big part of our society is at this green level. If you think about it, there is a kind of conflict right now between the orange and blue and the green level in our society. And a lot of people are at this level where they feel there needs to be more equality, and we have to take care of racism, and we have to make sure that everybody's, living together in some sort of equal, shared mentality. And so But you can see how these kind of mentalities emerged in our societies, and yet they are very much in conflict with one another. And that's the really interesting thing about this model. If you can see that the green is the last level on what's called the first tier. And the first tier is the evolution of humanity when it's still focused on its subsistence or our individual egoistic need to survive and be. And each of these levels is really trying to control everybody else and get everybody else to think the same way I think. And it has no consciousness of itself or ability or willingness to see things from other perspectives. And that is what causes conflict and really an inability to solve the problems at our global integral level, which we are really arriving at right now, or in the last 50 years anyway. And you see that the higher level that the model describes, it's already a second tier, which is a level of being, which already addresses the problems of our global existence as humanity. And it is integral. It is able to see the need for all the other levels to come together and work together as one whole. And that continues to evolve into a turquoise holistic level or meme that starts 30 years ago. And that's already the spiritual work that we talk about, that, you know, is really talking about us as one body. Humanity is one global body where the self or the individual experiences itself as one with the whole and not negating the whole. So it's really interesting to see this. And it's saying that we right now are at this point of taking this evolutionary leap. And it's a very special time in human history in that sense, because we are exactly at this kind of border between the two tiers. And the psychologists, they know this is supposed to happen, but they don't know how. They say, you guys have to write this book right now. We can't give it to you. We don't know what this kind of book of rules is going to look like to build these new higher order communities. You guys got to build it yourself. So, and I think this is where it leaves us who study Kabbalah to really fill in the blanks of how do we do this? How do we create these higher level mentalities or worldviews and really make them real in our life right now?
Wow.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
There's two things that really, first of all, I'm so happy that there's so many people here with us. We'll do a global check soon, Tal. You're talking to people on not Antarctica, but every other continent right now, like all over the world. What's so fascinating about it is that, we're like, oh, well, we need to make some advertising campaign to tell everyone, or how are we going to get everyone? It's like, it's happening naturally. Like stuff, it's what we keep talking about in the show. There is a guiding hand in.
No, yeah, I think the as Tal was going through it, the thing I'm fascinated by is the beauty of hindsight. That is such an important thing. Only through, with that gift of hindsight, we can actually see the force that is developing us and the dynamic by which it develops us. And you can see how we move through these two different conflicting forces. It's interesting that when Tal said that, how did you say it? That I cannot understand the previous degree or the next degree because I'm in conflict with it. And that's like the whole, guts of our evolution, the conflict between these two opposing forces within us that are trying to reach some ultimate balance, some ultimate new kind of integrated consciousness. And it's fascinating to me, at least, that psychologists are seeing this.
Yeah.
So, Tal, you, in addition to being a social psychologist, you're a Kabbalist. So add the part that the Kabbalist understands, that you have this interest, you have this additional vision on this whole process. Because
how would you continue the model?
What?
Yeah. How would she continue the model?
Yeah.
The unfinished model. But
let me tell you before you do, because Bright is just sending us our global checker, just so you can feel who you're speaking to now. Vancouver Island, Pakistan, Argentina, Russia, Kentucky, London, Chile, Nairobi, Kenya, Mexico, New York, South Carolina, Ukraine, Israel, Ethiopia, Miami, Los Angeles, Brazil, Norway, Washington, Uganda, Quebec, Ghana, Germany, Cameroon, Virginia, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Queens, Northampton, Sweden, Colombia, North Carolina, France, Iowa, Poland, Washington, Ohio, San Francisco, Spain, Nigeria, Arizona, New Jersey, Angola, Turkey, South Africa, Toronto, Batumi in Georgia, Europe, and Nairobi, Kenya. So, and Italy. Wow. So
Ooh,
everybody, we are so happy that we are all going
incredible.
through this process together. It is so emotional. And Missouri, high sewing in Missouri. And we see all your comments on YouTube and Facebook. It's so
I told you I'm
thrilling.
excited today at the beginning of the show.
You're right. I
That's
should
exactly
listen to
why
you
I'm
more.
excited. This is what we're sharing here is exactly, what Tal has talked about and will talk about. That's it. No more talking. Just take us to the next level,
Take it
Tal.
away. Tell us where we're going.
That's really amazing. I mean, it's true. It's like we're here as a global kind of community that it can really take this information and realize it. And I think that is what a Kabbalist understands, that it's not just theory, it's something that we can make real at this time. And I just wanted to note on what Asaf said, that it's true that in the first stage of our evolution that we've done up until now, there's always been this conflict between our individuality and the society of which we're part. It's either, we let our individuality be the center of the act, or we sacrifice ourselves for the sake of like safety or order or whatever. But the self never really feels that completes him, or that really sits well with his individuality. And this is what Kabbalah does so beautifully. It takes us to this higher level where you feel that your connection to the whole is your highest form of expression. And
Say
it
that
is
again. Say that
able.
again. Because that we might say this quickly and breeze through it quickly, but that's fundamental what you just said there. The ultimate individual expression is actually in connection to the whole. Was
Yeah, you actually begin to feel that connection to the whole, or being part of the whole, doesn't erase your individuality or negate it, because it becomes your highest purpose and your self-expression to contribute to the whole, because you begin to feel that it is all you, it is all part of you, and you begin to identify with the whole as your new or higher self. We could say it
Wow.
that way. The others become your soul. And when you contribute to them and you connect with them, then you are evolving yourself. You're evolving your higher self, highest self, or highest expression of self. And that is what Kabbalah does. It really takes this theory and breathes life into it and shows you how you can make it come true. And also, it gives you language. It gives you a universal language where all of us who come from such different places can understand each other and feel the same shared reality. And it's a reality that exists above our differences and above our opinions and above our mentalities and where we come from, and those different levels that we might come from. And it really heals this all of the suffering that people went through throughout history, with all of the conflict that came from not really knowing how to connect. So yeah, to see this model as a Kabbalist is just to get a kind of confirmation of what we're doing. And there is
the
a lot to say.
There is
There's
you first. Go.
no, you first.
Okay. Everything that's happening in our world today, okay?
I
When
was going to
you
basically say exactly what you were about to say. So
all these conflicts that we're seeing today, and all of these dead ends and these gridlocks that we're seeing, whether it's politically, economically, and now with this virus that is threatening us globally, um, if you put them into this evolutionary context, the evolution of human consciousness, they take on a completely different spin. That means that what does that mean to you, Tal? How do you see the
Well,
conflicts of today?
I'm going to say this, and I hope people understand what I mean, but I see that right now, the highest level of evolution on the lower tier, on the first tier, is the green level, right? And the green level has this inclination that we need to come together as societies and we need to fix the wrongs of society. And
The green level.
the green level
That's what you're
is,
saying?
yes, the level that we were talking about in the module in the model, that it came about 150 years ago, and we're talking about, you know, hippies and social democracy and liberalism and that sort of idea or view system that is talking about how to correct our societies. And this model is helping us to see that that is just one level of consciousness. That is just one perspective. And it is not the way, it's not the only way, or it can't on its own correct the problems of our world. Neither can anybody else. And by understanding that there is a higher level of consciousness, that only when we reach that, this integral level that is able to see in a systemic way how every piece comes together to form this whole, only then will we be able to solve the conflicts and the problems. And so I see that people get really passionate about their opinions and really passionate about the way they think we need to correct the world. But if we can show them
Should I
that
say
they are,
passionate and violent even?
yes, exactly, because even the green level that is very idealistic and very positive and sensitive and heart-centered and all that, it is still on the egoistic level where it is not able to cooperate with other levels, is not able to see that the world is not just one viewpoint. I have actually a photo that a cartoon that I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to share my screen again.
I'm sorry, we only let our guests show one thing. I'm just kidding.
That's green. That's very green of you. Okay. There it is. Oh, wait a minute. Why can't you see me? Can you still see me?
Yeah, no, we
yeah,
see it.
oh,
we see it.
see it. We see
Oh,
it. Okay.
So I'm gonna make this big again. Okay, I don't know. I hope you guys can still see
Yeah,
me, but
Yes, we see.
we could
We
this
see
is
it.
the cartoon, and it's really showing the two different sides of the political field fighting one another, each
Right.
one with their viewpoint, their world viewpoint, and their opinion. And then coronavirus comes in and it's like, hey, you know what? You guys, your opinions don't matter. I'm going to equalize everything and make you feel like the only thing that really matters is your shared humanity. And
Let's
I think,
dwell on
yeah,
this for a second, because this is you know, this could be even aggravating to some people. This could be you know, Seth, what would you say? Um, this could be
I'm bracing myself for the
okay. No, um, I think that what's really interesting in this cartoon is that nature gets involved here above all kinds of humans. And that is also what we are missing in order to rise to that higher integrated level where it's not just I want to correct the world and I see that we can make a better world here and you belong to an old kind of thinking that doesn't see it and you are this and I am that, but rather the only way for us to actually unite above our differences without negating them and canceling them and actually fusing them into something new is we got to get nature involved. And if we don't do it consciously, nature starts pushing us as in the form of a virus. That's where it gets, you know, where we get in touch with nature's program of evolution for human evolution. That's something that I didn't see in the model, but we're gonna have to add that. Would you agree, Tal?
yes, exactly. Thank you for saying that. It's exactly what's happening, because we see that the more we fight each other for our truth or our side of the things, the worse our societies are gonna end up. And this virus, or nature, as you put it, is really coming in to give us a different perspective, to help us take a step back and see that we are part of some system that is integral, that is bigger than us, that is has laws that are higher than what the way that we understand reality or the world. And we need to like kind of take a step back and learn from this bigger system what what its laws is, what its truth is, what its vision or viewpoint is. And we have to kind of see that it's bringing us together. It's going to force us to collaborate. It's going to force us to feel that we are dependent on each other. And right now, I mean, I don't think people are seeing it yet, but nature
And
is going to push us to it
and
sooner or later.
it's not vague either. It's not that we have to philosophize about it. It's very clear. I'm sure there could be 100 diagrams like the one we just saw that we could create or that even exist out there that show this process. And until now, we started the show. You may have heard at the beginning. You know, we developed from mud. You want to go back even before that? We developed from stardust. And there's at each of these stages, we could see wars. You know, even if we go back not so far, you know, the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution and you know, the civil the Civil War in the United States. There's always this, you know, the kind of law and order comes in, and then the students or whoever, you know, the ones with the new ideas, the left comes and then overthrows, and then they become the new this, and then the next one comes and then they become, and it keeps going through
And
history.
it
And what
looks the
happens,
same throughout. It looks the same throughout biological evolution as well. By the way, if you look
like the
at
example you said about the
bacteria,
earth with
yeah,
the, yeah, so there's
bacteria, you
this a
know,
process,
yeah.
there's a process happening in nature, and we got to the point now, and what we want to learn together here, and that's that's the purpose of the show, that's what we're discussing here, is that until now we don't need to have another full out war conflict in order to keep advancing. In fact, up until now, we completed a level called the kind of our animal development, and now by using our minds and using our hearts, we can we can transcend those battles that we just discussed internally by uniting together in the right, by uniting together. We don't have, it doesn't have to manifest as another world war or manifest as something, but instead these two forces come together. Something has to work between those. They don't, neither of them have to be erased. In fact, this is how the whole process develops. So Tal, the question is, how does this message reach people? How does it spread? How can we do it in a more internal way so that it doesn't have to, we keep, the left can, you know, it's important, and the right is important. We see that this is how we're advancing, but how do we do it without having to have a war, without having to have a, yeah.
Yeah, that is probably the number one question. And yet when I talk to people about this model, I see that it does help them understand why they don't feel so good about the current solutions that they see. Like they feel that something's not right with the way we're trying to impose certain solutions on our societies. And this model kind of helps them see that. And I think that what we need to really to see is that the current solutions are too superficial. We can't create social harmony by changing language or semantics or political correctness. To really experience this oneness, we need much deeper solutions, education that can really help us feel how we need each other, how we complete each other. And this kind of change, societal change, happens through a process of education. It cannot happen on a superficial level where we change our external expression, but not how we feel on the inside. I think that is the key. We need to start feeling on the inside that we care, that we have value to receive from other people who are different than us. And we need communication, and we need to experience that on regularly. We need to create these listening circles and communities where we bring these kind of solutions to people. And it needs to happen in a very systemic way. We need a process of education to move us through this evolutionary leap. It's a leap. It can't just happen from the mind. It has to happen from the heart. And that's why a lot of people who I talk to about this, they begin to understand that the current solutions are not enough, and then they're not working. We need something deeper than that.
Yeah. Okay. So we need a lot of action, socio-educational action that will lead to actual change of the human being. We need an actual radical change of mind and heart and not just slogans and political agendas. Um, we have a bunch of questions here, Tal. How about we use the rest of the time we have here to maybe just try to answer as many as we can? What do you say, guys? So I'll just start with Richard here from South Africa, and anyone on YouTube or Facebook you're watching, go ahead and shoot a question if you wanted to get answered live. So Richard from South Africa is asking this: with evolution transitioning from a level of consciousness to the new next level needs a new consciousness development direction. I guess he's saying every new degree, every new level needs a certain conscious development, a conscious direction. How do you suggest we do this? Kind of a follow up to what we just talked about. Go ahead, guys. Tal, Seth, let's answer this together.
I did want to say something that, like you guys said before, nature, it's happening naturally, except nature does it by extreme pressure and painful situations that push us to experience our oneness, interdependence, like this virus. And it will continue to do that unless we take the reins into our hands and start willingly, consciously wanting to change. And by the way, the psychologists do refer to this time in our evolution as the only time that we are able to become conscious of the process itself. Like until now, all the levels were not conscious of themselves and they had no awareness of the fact that they have this specific level of awareness. But now there is a possibility to have this awareness that we are in a process of evolution and to consciously, willingly want to seek this change, the solutions to our global reality. And if people begin to seek it and want to change and try and like feel where is this change going to come from? How do we learn it? Then they will find the information and then we will make the transition happen pleasantly and quickly and willingly.
Okay, so Jacqueline on
Yeah.
Facebook is asking that. Why is it always so? Why does growth and evolution always have this conflict? And it seems like spiritual growth has the same kind of bashing of forces. Is it ever smooth?
Why do we need conflict? Always conflict. There has to be some conflict and suffering. Why? Essentially.
I would say there always, well, you guys can answer this too. I would say there always has to be some amount of pressure for us to change because our nature is wanting to everything to always be static and pleasant and easy and comfortable. We don't want to step out of our comfort zone, right? So there's always going to be a little bit of pressure to do that and help us do that. And when we need to completely change our nature into this connection, then of course it's not going to be all easy but the more we do it together, the more we influence each other and help each other and support each other and see examples from others, then that will make it smoother. I think when you try to do it alone, it's really, really hard. But the more we do it together and the more people join this, then it will become easier.
Yeah. We'll see that these desires in us, nothing is bad, really. What's this power that's coming in the left to overthrow and this law and order thing from the right, none of it is bad. But if it arranges itself well, then all of a sudden it can go through this whole transformation together like a dance, like something very beautiful with a lot of power instead of breaking into a war. Seth, there's a bunch more questions. Did you see those?
Yeah. Yeah, we have Samuel Lima here on YouTube asking the question is, I think he's asking this in relation to the caricature we saw before. The question is, he says, in this pandemic, who gets the last laugh?
It's just a question to me. Who
But
gets the last laugh? I would say nature. Nature is the one who's in charge of the whole thing, the whole show. And yet, even though nature gets the last laugh, I hope that we get to join in this laughter or game together with nature as we align our consciousness with the higher plan or purpose.
I will add to that there is a beautiful allegory by Kabbalist Yehuda Ashlag where he actually talks about it just like that. He compares nature, the guiding force of nature, to like a king that sends all kinds of messengers for the one who's trying to reach the king, and they seem like horrible enemies but then they undress themselves from those clothings, those garments of enemies and horrible murderers and whatnot, and they appear as clowns, and everyone have a laugh. And this is a very deeply, very deep, profoundly written kind of allegory, but it talks about this beauty, and yet, it's elevated beauty of nature's plan. And unfortunately, because it's elevated, it's hard for us to talk about it as a joke. But it says in Kabbalah, the Creator, that guiding force of nature, plays with creation. There is such a Kabbalistic adage. So that's deep. That's deep. But yeah, Seth, what do you say? You saw a question here that we should answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where is it? Trying to read every comment.
Yeah, I lost some for sure. Samuel Lima, by the way, says, "How are diamonds formed? We are diamonds in the making." I think that's an interesting.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, yeah,
Tons of pressure.
exactly. And also, until I'll say another word until you find another question for Jacqueline. You know, let's, as Kabbalists, we have our heads and our hearts are aiming high. We're looking at the next level all the time. We're looking to that higher state of connection and oneness, but we're also with our boots on the ground, with our feet on the ground. And we got to say that it's not going to be super smooth and easy. It is going to be a time where we have to brace ourselves, because change, just by its very nature, change means changing from a certain state to another state. Any kind of change, and Tal, as a psychologist, will tell you, any kind of change means discomfort. But like Tal said, if we do this together and we start being more adventurous in our mindset, and we can start envisioning where we're actually going, then maybe we can even mitigate this transition stage and see it already as the beautiful future that's going to happen after the birth. So, any questions, Seth, that you found?
There's a question. I don't want to confuse our audience, though. The question feels a little confusing. Jaren James on YouTube. So she's using the word God, and we're trying as much as possible to speak even though we don't know what God means to Jaren and what we speak of it as the creator, as the law of nature. So let's just go from there. Why are we fighting? Where is it leading? Why? Well, maybe that's the question there. But I think we answered it already.
Yeah. Maybe he's asking where is God in the whole process.
Well, no, he's saying if nature provides everything for us,
yeah.
And why this whole process? If we're all supposed to be if our whole purpose is to serve, Jaren asks, then why this whole mess that we have to go through?
I think Tal can answer this one.
I'll try. Well, it's like this model. It's about the evolution of consciousness. I guess that to produce consciousness, you got to do this whole thing. I mean, whoever planned it knew that that's what you got to do. It's like a fruit or some development of an animal that's got stages, and developing human consciousness is a process. It's a very long, evidently, process where we need to go through all the stages, but the result, the thing that we're giving birth to, is going to be such high quality and so fulfilling and so complex and so amazing that all of those stages that we had gone through before will somehow culminate into that amazing ripeness, and we will be able to see why we had to go through all of that before to really enjoy and experience with complete consciousness this level that we're heading towards. You guys complete me.
Yeah.
Well, if there's one more question, but I think we're at the end of our time. Maybe we
are.
can touch the question and start the next show with it or something. Mariam on Facebook is saying, beyond Kabbalah studies, what can we do to make change, since change is happening from the upper worlds first? Do you have any practical tips? Might be
Okay.
too much to bite off since we're at our limit here, but um,
Just a tip. We don't have a time. Okay. Have a daily dose of some consciousness inducing environment, whether it's other people who think like you, whether it's tuning into our show or any of our materials, um, and just try to elevate your mind and heart a little bit above the the mainstream media. That's just one tip. I don't know. Maybe throw another one into the mix. Tal, Seth, someone.
Yeah, I agree. It's an evolution of consciousness. So we need to connect to the environments that help us keep our thoughts and our feelings and our notions in the right place. And when we do that, we affect other people around us. And then together we will rise and change as a whole.
All right.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you
Here's our
so much,
very
Tal, for
last
being with
tip.
us.
Here's our very last tip. We have a great song, and the tip is to stay with us and sing with us. So it's the our signature song on this show. We haven't played it at the end of the show for a while, so let's enjoy it together. Um, Seth, you wanted to say some concluding
No,
thank
thank you,
yous?
everybody. Amazing day. Tal, it was so good to have you here.
Thanks, guys. It
Great
was so good
energy
to be
today,
here.
bro.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be here today on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, and enjoy the music.